Two of my favorite focal lengths for portrait photography has to be the 35mm and the 85mm. Both are very different lenses but can be a great addition to your kit if you're a portrait photographer. And that's what we are going to talk in this video. Hey guys, I'm Saurav. Welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. So good to see you. In this video, me and my talented photographer friend Ashish are going to shoot with Megan, who is a very talented model. I'm going to compare the results side by side. We'll understand the differences of these lenses and how to decide which lens to use in your next shoot. This is going to be a super exciting one. So without wasting any time, let's get started. The most obvious difference is the distance. When shooting with a 35mm lens, you can get much closer to your subject. To achieve a similar composition with an 85mm lens, you will need to step back significantly. In open spaces, this is not much of a problem. But when shooting in tighter environments, the 35mm is far more versatile. It doesn't require as much room to maneuver, but the 85mm, even on a full-frame camera, can be too restrictive at times. When choosing a location for your next photo shoot, you have to be aware of this and then accordingly decide which lens to use. Even if the compositions are similar, the images look quite different, right? That is due to background compression. Let me quickly explain what background compression is. It's a visual effect where the background appears closer to the subject or compressed than it actually is. This effect becomes more pronounced as you increase the focal length. But that doesn't make one lens better or worse. It all boils down to the kind of look and mood you want to achieve, and your choice of lens should align with it. The 35mm feels more natural because the field of view closely matches how the human eye perceives the world on a full-frame camera. If you want a natural, realistic feel, the 35mm is definitely the way to go. However, one strong reason why I sometimes prefer the 85 over the 35 is its ability to minimize distractions. Since it focuses on a smaller portion of the frame, you can isolate your subject much more effectively. In contrast, shooting with a wider lens like a 35mm requires you to be more mindful of your surroundings because it captures more of the environment. A key factor that makes the 85mm better at minimizing distraction is its depth of field. The 85mm lens I'm using has an aperture of f1.2, while the 35 has an aperture of f1.4. Even though both lenses are set to similar apertures, the 85mm will still produce a significant shallower depth of field. This happens because with a longer focal length, as we saw in the video before, the lens compresses the scene more, leading to a more pronounced blur in both the foreground and the background. The result is a smoother, more pronounced bokeh, which is particularly beneficial when you want to isolate your subject from the environment. If that is your priority, you're better off with the 85. Don't get me wrong, you can get a nice shallow depth of field with 35mm as well. Right now, I'm shooting with the 35, just that the blur won't be that intense. Something to keep in mind when you're shooting with busier backgrounds. Photography is not just about creating visually perfect images. It is also about storytelling. The 35mm lens, while offering a more natural and wider perspective, also adds more context to the scene. The way the 35mm captures the environment around the subject can introduce elements that help the story you're trying to tell. It's not just about creating a clean, isolated image. It's about showing the subject in its environment. It's about giving more context to the viewer. I feel with the 35, since we are closer to the subject and it is close to what our eyes perceive, it creates a stronger connection between the subject and the setting, adding meaning to the shot. This video is not about coming to a conclusion which lens is better. Every lens has its own strengths and weaknesses. As a photographer, one piece of advice I want to give is spend a lot of time with a particular focal length to get better at it. What I'm trying to say is, let's say you shoot a lot with 24mm. You develop a vision as a photographer, as a filmmaker, and you start seeing everything around you at 24mm. It will only happen once you have spent enough time with it. This is one of the reasons why I love shooting with prime lenses. They force you to think more about composition and your relationship with the subject. That being said, don't get too comfortable. You should occasionally mix it up to get out of your comfort zone and work on your composition skills. I'm more used to shooting with the 85, But I'm making sure that I shoot with 35 more often in order to get out of my comfort zone and explore that focal length. Every time I'm shooting portraits, the 35 and the 85, these will always be in my camera bag. I love this focal lengths, very different, very versatile and very helpful as a portrait photographer. Let me know which lens do you use and why do you use it. I would love to hear your opinion as well. That's it from this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something from it, and you know the drill, right? Like the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Let's reach 1 million soon. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.
That's beautiful. That's perfect, bro. That's beautiful, bro.